Their first thought is someone knocking on the door is, good news. For me, someone knocking on my door. Someone knocked on my door yesterday. I hid.
Welcome to Hot Girl Stomps.
Happy Christmas, Gemma.
Happy Christmas to you.
It is Christmas Eve. Well, not while we're recording this, but when you're listening to this, it is.
'Twas the night before Christmas.
And all through the house. It definitely wasn't quiet.
The ghoulies were waiting for Hot Girl Stomps to come about.
God, well done. I like
it. We should have planned that better.
We should have. That was very good ad-lib. I like it. Well done. I'm into it. Anyway, how have you been? How's your prep for Christmas been so far?
Oh, I just feel like I feel like Christmas when you're a kid, the days you're waiting.
Oh my God.
Waiting for Christmas to come. And as an adult, like, I just don't know where it's all gone.
No, I agree completely. So what day is it today? The 16th, I think, when we're recording this. So it's a week and 2 days before Christmas, technically, while we're filming. I have bought half of what I'm supposed to have bought.
Really?
I have wrapped about 3 presents. I've still got stuff that I need to post. I'm fairly certain that post day is Friday, which I do have off work. So I'm going to be joining the droves of people, I think, on final post day in the post office, which I've really screwed myself over a little bit with, but it is what it is.
How did you only wrap 3 presents? Did you get lost in Love Actually?
I did a little bit, but also, a couple of the presents that I've got are kind of like hampers, or like it's taking me a while to figure out how to actually like pack them in a way that they can be opened, because they're like a group present for family, like that I can't be with and stuff. So it's just one of those. It's just annoying. And then I do, as Gemma mentioned, my Christmas tradition is that if I'm wrapping presents, I watch Love Actually. That's like my main tradition, and I always try, if I can, on Christmas Eve or the day before Christmas Eve, to watch The Snowman as well. Have you got any? I know you've got kids, so you probably have got quite a few more traditions than me, but what traditions have you got from your childhood or now?
So film wise, it's not Christmas until I've watched The Holiday.
Fair enough.
Until Jude Law has put on those slutty glasses.
Oh my God.
And stared at me from many different angles. It's not Christmas.
We saw The Holiday together when that came out at the cinema.
We did, and I really didn't think much of it.
No, I didn't
as
at
a
the
kid
time.
At the cinema.
We were about 10.
Yeah.
Because we were at our primary school.
Yeah.
And I know that because a friend of ours, Hannah, had her friend Michaela with us, who was friends with us in primary school.
Oh.
I'm just trying to see if you're looking at your face. Do you remember her?
Is she German?
Yes, I think so. Yeah. So that film came out, I think, when we were about either 10 or 11 years old, and we all went to the cinema as a big group to watch it.
Yeah.
That's a blast from the past.
So I said to Lou the other day, I got some rapping started, and I said, I'm going to put on The Holiday and do some rapping. And Lewis was like, you're going to watch it without me? I was like,
oh,
noted. So I also watched Love Actually whilst doing my rapping. And then other things, just like, I don't know really.
What do you do with the kids? Like, have you got any traditions that you started with them or anything?
We've started, so something I've only just done this year actually is so trying to, and I have liked it, and I'm going to do it again next year because I think it sort of brings the focus back in on like just spending time together. But I've been doing like an advent calendar sort of thing where I put an envelope on the tree, so like 1, 2, 3, 4, like however many days of Christmas, and it's just got like a little Christmas activity on it for us to do.
I remember you talking to me about this because you hate the Elf on the Shelf.
I don't do Elf on the Shelf, yeah.
Understandable, because he seems like a bit of a knob to me, to be honest. Everything I've seen of him, he doesn't seem like a very nice elf, so I do understand. But that's nice. I remember you said you were going to do, like, what have you done so far? I know you were on day one. I saw you on day one. You were like, what the bloody hell do I do for this thing? So we're now 16 days in. What have you been up to?
So we have, what have we done? I think my favourite one, so we took them to Asda and just did a food bank shop for the local food bank.
That's nice.
Yeah, just sort of trying to get them into
giving
into
to
the holiday
people, yeah.
spirit. So we did that, and then what else have we done? Obviously, I've done the standard, like taking them to physically see Santa. We've done Christmas crafts. Like some have been as simple as on
Cute.
days where I've been at work and they've been
Can't
looked
be
after by
bothered.
grandparents. Yeah, it's literally just been as simple as like make a festive hot chocolate together, or
Cute.
watch like the snowman or
Yeah.
something Christmassy. But so yeah, just like a little 5-minute focus of the day.
I like it.
Write Christmas cards out together. I'm going to go deliver those at the weekend.
I got my Christmas card from your daughter. It was lovely.
You did, yeah.
She was very proud to present it to me.
She was.
It is on, well, I say it's on my fridge. It's on my radiator because I have an inbuilt fridge now. So
Love that.
where my previous years of Christmas cards from your children were on my fridge, this year they're unfortunately on the festive radiator.
The festive radiator.
Yes. But yeah, so Christmas, that brings me nicely into what we're going to be looking at today. So, before we go into that, sorry, I did say I gave Gemma a little teaser earlier. So just segue, because it's us. We always segue into something. So it is on the topic of the paranormal. It's something that I think we can use in future as a real life experience that I have had that can be used to debunk some paranormal stuff in the future. So this might be something that you don't know about me, because it's not something I talk about very often. It's a little bit personal, but I'm willing to share for the group research purposes. So for years, and I mean years, like as probably long as I can remember, every now and then I have something called a hypnopompic hallucination, which I don't know if you've ever heard of hypnagogic and hypnopompic, I think it is, hallucinations before.
No.
Gemma is staring at me like, what the hell are you talking about? So they are the two hallucinations that can be attributed to sleep paralysis. So it's like the official name. I don't get sleep paralysis, but I get something else. So they're like the official names for falling asleep is the hypnagogic, and then the waking up is the hypnopompic one, which is the one that I have. So this usually happens when I'm stressed. I did have a little bit of a tumultuous sort of childhood and teenage years. So when I was having the stress that I was having as I was growing up, I used to have them quite regularly. As in maybe, once every couple of months I would have one of these. And up until recently, because I've started Googling them, I didn't realise how common the specific type of hallucination that I have is. It's nothing to do with the paranormal, it's actually bugs. So what would happen to me is I would wake up, and it would usually be an hour or two after I've fallen asleep. Oftentimes it would be if I was maybe sleeping in a situation where there was like the light was different to what I was normally in. So maybe I had like I'd fallen asleep with the lamp on, or fallen asleep with the TV on and it was on like really, really low, rather than being like dark or light in the room. There was like an aura glow in the room. Like it would usually happen on those kind of days. And I would wake up and I would see spiders, or I would see like crane flies or like daddy long legs like flying across the room. Like just one. Like it would be if there was a wall next to the bed, I would see a spider on the wall. If I was facing out into the room, I would see like a daddy long legs fly across the room. And everything would happen within about a second or two. I would like leap out of bed to turn the light on, and by the time I've turned the light on, my brain has started to wake up and realise this is what's happening. And obviously I'm quite used to them. I've had them for years. By that point, logically in my head, I'm like, I know that this is now not real, but my body is still in panic, fight or flight mode. So I'm having a panic attack. And then I'm having to check my bed and like take all the sheets off my bed and just check everything, even though I know it wasn't real. So that is what I've had consistently. It's always been that for literally as long as I can physically remember, and maybe like 2 or 3 a year for my entire life. Until recently, and I don't know if it's because I've been stressed at work, I don't know, but literally 2 in the last week, which is the like closest together I've ever had these happen. And last night was one of them, which is why I'd mentioned to Gemma before this I've had 4.5 hours sleep, because I got woken up in the night by hallucinations.
A ghost spider?
No,
Phantom
it wasn't
spider.
even. It's changed now, and I've never known this to happen. So this is where I'm going with the paranormal. There's a whole mindset behind this. The last 2 weeks, it has been like a mouse or something, like some kind of small black like scurrying creature in my bed. So I messaged my group chat with my two like closest friends in last week or the week before, where I actually talked to them about it, and I was like, that was actually really horrendous. Like, I've never had one where it's been like an actual like something in my bed that was like a mouse or something like running across my pillow. And I like jumped out of bed, and like I actually was like, because I've never experienced one that wasn't spiders, I didn't know what to do, and it really upset me. Like about 2 weeks ago now, probably. And then last night again, it happened, and I don't know if it's because I've been away over the weekend, and I knew I was coming back to work today, and whether like the stress of that, because work's been really stressful, whether because it took me ages to fall asleep, whether that sort of like was sitting on my psyche a little bit, because I woke up again and I thought I had like a rat in my bed. And jumped out of bed and was like completely freaked out. So that leads me on to this paranormal side of it, because obviously, and I'm not saying that this is what happened with you, but like with your Hatman story, for example, but also with a lot of people's not necessarily the sleep paralysis, because we know that sleep paralysis and that like physically not being able to move your body thing is another side of like a sleep apnea, sleep sort of like paralysis thing. But these hallucinations that people are having, or these things that people are seeing in their bedrooms that they've never experienced before. Well, I've never experienced seeing rats in my bed until 2 weeks ago, and suddenly now it's happened twice, and I know they weren't real because obviously I have a history of this throughout my life. But let's say that happened, like they're stress related. They're almost always stress related, these hallucinations. What's to say that, you know, people that are having these like nighttime paranormal visits from things aren't just suffering one of these hallucinations, which are very normal, and they're attributing it to something that they've never experienced before because they haven't. I'm a prime example of it. You know, I've just experienced 2 things in 2 weeks. If I'd never had the spider ones before, I would be thinking, what in the actual hell? I've got a rat problem in my house. Like, what's going on? If those weren't rats, if I was actually seeing ghosts or shadow people at the end of my bed, I'd be thinking, holy crap, I'm being haunted by something.
Yeah, of course.
But actually, I know, because I unfortunately have experienced it for years and years and years, I know what it actually is. And it's just like a stress related coming into, you know, out of my dream state, and my body's not quite like figured out that that's what's happening yet. But I just thought I'd share that because I've been thinking about it throughout the day today, and I'm like, I think, and it's not something new. People in the paranormal have attributed sleep paralysis to this before, but until now I've never really experienced anything other than the spiders. So I've never really had anything to go off of where I can say, well, actually you can experience more than that, because 80% of people see bugs, apparently. Like, it's only 20% of people that don't see insects. Don't know why that is. Whether it's because spiders is probably like one of the biggest fears in the world, I don't know. But yeah, just some food for thought. I know I've rambled on about this, and it's a Christmas episode, but it's so relevant to right now for me. And I think we've probably discussed things, and probably will discuss things on this podcast going forward, that I think that could be used as a very logical explanation for, and unfortunately I've got experience now.
Right, Cheri, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, I love you. Right, A, thank you for sharing that vulnerable moment with me, and why the hell you've never told me that before. We're gonna have words after we've stopped recording this.
I know, I'm sorry, it's just never been relevant until now.
And B, it's 9 o'clock at night now. Thank you, because now I'm going to be down a rabbit hole once I go to bed now,
looking into
on the psychological
hallucinations.
Yeah, the psychological importance of bugs on the psyche. Why yours has now transformed into
mice
rodents,
and rats. And the thing is,
and why my child brain decides it's appropriate to present. Like, what the hell could I have been stressed about as like a 7-8-year-old to warrant a man, a dark silhouette in a hat?
Oh, I'm not saying
to come
remotely.
visit me. What is
I think
that?
The thing is, though, so your experience from what you've told, and we're referencing episode 1, sorry, for you guys that maybe not have listened to episode 1, the Hatman episode. We're referencing one of Gemma's experiences that went on for seemingly a while, whereas this, for me, in my experience, this is Gemma, I'm talking a second,
Yeah, like
2
a split
seconds
second. Yeah.
before my brain actually wakes up and I go, what the actual F is going on?
Yeah.
So for you are lying there and you are watching this thing happen, and you didn't mention that you had any, you know, pressure on your chest and that you were paralyzed or any of that sort of thing. You were watching this thing and it was morphing and it was moving and it was like leaning. I'm not remotely saying that that's what yours was, but I think that there are some experiences with the Hat Man where people maybe really have a split second of seeing him. Like, I literally saw this thing scurry across my pillow within a second. I jumped out of bed, switched the light on within 2 seconds, and by that point my brain had actually realised I'm awake. That's not real, this is a hallucination, and that logical brain sort of kicks straight in. So I think a lot of people's, when they're seeing something like out of the corner of their eye or a split second, or they wake up and see something over them and then it's gone, I think maybe that can be attributed to this. I think people with long elongated experiences and, like, you know, where it goes on for a bit longer and more stuff happens, I think maybe not necessarily. I'm not a psychologist, I can't tell you that that's the case, but this is just my understanding from that experience, and I just found it to be very relevant to some of the stories that we have had sent in. You know, your colleagues that sent some stuff in, my colleague that sent something in around her having sleep paralysis and stuff like that. I think this is all part of that kind of hypno thing, sleep thing. But yeah, interesting. So moving on to Christmas.
Jingle bells, jingle bells,
jingle all the way. Ooh. So this is my episode today. So Gemma's got a day off from having to do any research, which she is currently praising the Lord. So originally, I kind of scrapped my original sort of research notes. So Gemma kind of knew roughly what I was researching. I was originally looking into some of your more common tales around Christmas, like Krampus, which I think at this point most people know Krampus. They've maybe seen photos or they've seen the horror films and this, that and the other, and I was kind of going down that rabbit hole around those kind of myths or different cultures and, you know, the creepy scary things that they have around Christmas. And, you know, like Christmas Carol, we've got Christmas Carol with the Ghost of Christmas Past and all of that stuff. I eventually kind of scrapped that a little bit, and I thought I would just share a bunch of stories of just spooky paranormal things that have happened to people around the world, mainly in the UK, but there's a couple that are from sort of other countries as well. Just some spooky tales of things that have happened to people on, you know, either Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, or sort of like leading up to that Christmas period. So I'm just going to sort of read out. Some of these are written in the way, because, you know, I've got some of these from books, I've got some of them from articles, some of them from like stately homes and stuff that have had stuff sent in, and some of them are Reddit posts and people's real tellings. So I will let you know if it's in someone's words. Some of these I've like abbreviated them. So the first tale that I want to tell you about is Leith Hall in Scotland. So Scotland is one that I found came up a lot, which I don't think anyone's going to be surprised by. Scotland is so haunted. Like, I actually ended up with too many Scotland stories, and I was like, I need to... Otherwise, this is just going to be the Haunted Scotland podcast. So I was like, I'm going to cut some of these out. And I'm going to get some from other places.
Highland hauntings. Sorry.
You do accents bloody well, you do.
Sorry.
Right, so Leith Hall in Scotland. So it was home of the Leith Hay family for nearly 400 years. Leith Hall is haunted by the ghost of John Leith, and I think I'm saying it right. It's Leith or Leith. I'm going to go with Leith, who was shot in 1763 in a drunken brawl, that was hard to say, in Aberdeen. So Aberdeen, for those of you that don't know, is in the north of Scotland. I think the northeast of Scotland. It's quite far up there. It's quite high up. He was brought home but died 3 days later on Christmas Day. Rough luck.
Oh.
I know. Wearing dark green trousers and a shirt, he appears in great pain to people, lamenting his injuries, So a bit of a woe is me, that kind of vibe, with a dirty white bandage wrapped around his head and covering his eyes. There have been other sightings as well, which include apparitions of a family dog and children playing. So this gentleman who passed away on Christmas Day, whether he, appears to people because he's upset that he died on Christmas Day, it doesn't say whether or not he appears on Christmas Day, he just appears to people, and he happened to pass away on Christmas Day in that house. And it was 700 years old, this building, and it was 1763 that he was shot. So a long, long, long time ago. The next one's a bit of an odd one. Excuse my pronunciation of this, it is Icelandic. So the Flómanna saga, otherwise known as the people of Flói from Iceland. So this was first written down in 1300, so a blooming long time ago. There were guests at a Christmas feast that were lured outside by knocking. So they're all eating. So a bunch of people had gone to bed. The ones that had stayed up, that were like overindulging essentially, they heard this knocking at the door. For some reason, somebody decided, and I don't know where they got it from, they were like, it must be somebody with good news. So they went and answered the door. This is literally written in the tale from 1300.
That's what I always think.
Their first thought is someone knocking on the door is, good news. For me, someone knocking on my door. Someone knocked on my door yesterday. I hid in bed. I was like, I'm not expecting someone.
That millennial panic.
I hate it, Gemma.
Of a human being wanting contact with you.
Who are you? Why are you at my door?
Actually telephone
on
calling
my day
you?
off?
No.
Yeah, exactly. So for some ungodly reason, these people were like, yes, good news. And this person went and answered the door, and were instantly driven mad. And ended up going out into the wilderness. And for some reason, I don't know whether it's because they were drunk, because it was Christmas and they were happy, but each time the door knocked, somebody went and answered the door, and it was almost like they were picking people off.
Is this actually true?
It's written down from the 1300s. It's an Icelandic tale.
Oh, okay.
So it was first recorded in the 1300s that there was this party that was going on, and that these people started to disappear throughout the evening. I just elbowed the chair. I am sorry. Sorry, Lewis, for having to edit that out. I apologise. Gemma's covering her face. Gemma and I have been told off by producer Lewis, you would not understand how many times,
of his tether with us,
for us putting cups down and Gemma bashing her finger off the.
I'm just caressing the microphone when I shouldn't be. Yeah.
And now me elbowing the desk. Sorry. But yeah, so each of them were driven mad, and it was supposedly by evil spectral beings that were luring them out. So essentially what they think the reason was it was the spirits were telling a tale of, at Christmas, how dare you overindulge, it's not the time to overindulge. All of the people who went to sleep that night early were spared, but it was just those that stayed up drinking heavily and eating heavily that ended up being driven mad and disappearing.
Okay.
And were taken. So this is led now in Iceland, and if we've got any listeners from Iceland that can attest to this, so there is a tradition now that the head of the household is to, I don't think they physically do it themselves anymore, but for a long time after that, the head of the household would be the person who would burn bodies when people died. Obviously now we have cremation ceremonies and stuff like that, but they do say in Iceland that you burn the bodies because the ghosts of the people who were taken that night return as revenants. And a revenant in old Celtic and old Norse mythology is essentially a spirit that can either come back as a spirit or can actually come back as a undead corpse. So the burning of the bodies stops those undead from basically inhabiting a body or re-inhabiting their body and coming back as a zombie, essentially.
Game of Thrones
White
Walkers, you're basically telling me.
Pretty much,
Understood.
Yeah. Yes. So that is why, and you'll see that in a lot of Norse movies, they do it in Thor, The Dark World, when, they shoot the burning arrow onto the coffin as it goes off down the river. Burning of bodies has been a very big thing, for a lot of years across sort of the Norse and the Scandinavian countries. And some people believe that it's because of this tale, and because of what happened that night at Christmas.
Interesting.
I know.
On Christmas as well.
At Christmas. It was a Christmas celebration that it was happening. So
Christmas birthed the White Walkers.
it did. Oh my god.
Oh.
That explains why they like the snow so much.
Yeah. There you go.
But yeah, so if we've got any Scandinavian or Norse heritage listeners, I would be very interested to know if you have got any tales around that still get passed down, because this does seem to be where that sort of like tradition came from that I have found. So the next one is this one's definitely not real, but I like it because it's about King Arthur and the court of King Arthur. So obviously the historians do believe that potentially King Arthur was a real person, born in Tintagel in Cornwall. If anybody doesn't know, I have visited the supposed birthplace of King Arthur in Cornwall. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. But this actually happened supposedly at a court of King Arthur himself, and he was present. So this happened in the 14th century. So there was a Christmas feast going on in the court of Camelot, and there is a poem that's been written around this as well. I didn't download the poem though. Sorry, I'm not very good at reading poetry. But there was a Christmas feast, and it was disturbed by a green man on a green horse with a green axe, who came in and challenged anybody within the court to a deadly Christmas game. I don't know what the winnings were for this. I don't know why, whether it was just bragging rights, I'm not sure. But for some reason, King Arthur's nephew, Sir Gawain, I don't know if I've pronounced that correctly, goes on that quest, and the quest ends up testing his virtues as a knight. So I'm thinking now, what would the virtues of a knight be? My assumption would be, ladies and stuff like that. So I would assume, and this is an assumption, that knights back then probably would have abstained from, premarital relations or relations of any kind. The stories of King Arthur and all of those that we hear, with the Lady of the Lake and all of that stuff, always seem to include a woman that tries to woo the young men to their deaths. So essentially, I don't know why this guy was green, why he had a green horse and why he had a green axe, but he appeared out of nowhere, like in the middle of the court, and challenged them all during this Christmas feast. So what the relevance of that is, I could not find, because it's part of an old poem and an old tale, but I just thought that was an interesting one, because I've never heard of a green ghost on a green horse with a green axe before, like anywhere. You hear, the white ladies, the grey ladies. I think I have even heard a story of like a green lady spirit, but I'm not sure what the relevance of that is. And if there's any listeners that are aware of that, I'll be very interested to know.
He was just feeling festive.
Just feeling very festive, or very unwell. So the next one's another Scotland one, but I didn't want to remove it because I did a bit of a deep dive on this one, actually. Something in me was like, I need to look up who owns this castle, like at the time that this happened, and I've got a theory. So I'm gonna let you theorise first. So it's called I think it's Penkate Castle, which is in Scotland, and I'll tell you what the formerly known name was after this. So in 1923, on Christmas night, the family who owned the castle were gathered in the music room singing carols. They all observed, like everybody in the whole family observed, their carved wooden family crest that was attached to the wall. It rose really slowly and like crookedly, like shaking away from the wall, like physically like moved away from the wall, off the hook that it was on, still, and then moved itself back onto the wall and like reattached itself. So the whole family witnessed this. The interesting part that I found, so it's been attributed to a beggar, the ghost of a beggar, from the 17th century. So there was a beggar called Alexander Hamilton, not that Alexander Hamilton, because that was my first thought when I read it. Gemma's face immediately was like, Alexander Hamilton? No.
I'm just trying not to sing it. Carry
on. So he in the 17th century, and there's no date around what day he actually arrived, but it just says 17th century. He was seeking shelter from the cold, and this starts to sound like the beginning of Beauty and the Beast for a moment, so I apologise. They told him to leave, told him to go away, and then literally within days, the entire family dropped dead of mysterious illness. So the woman who told him to go away and her daughter were the first two to die. Apparently, he was then, and there is evidence for this, that particular person was then tried as a witch, and he was executed and hanged in Edinburgh for being a witch. So people believe that he cursed them, and they believe that this is who still haunts this particular castle. So the thing that I found interesting about this, I was like, okay, so who owned the castle in 1923? Who is the family that was saying the carols? So it was the family, the Holborn family. What I found interesting, so remember the date 1923, it was Christmas night 1923.
Yeah.
The Holborn family bought the property in 1922. It had been owned by the same family for 400 years before that. For 1 year, they owned this property, and suddenly they had this paranormal experience on Christmas. What I found really interesting was that the name of the property for all of those 400 years that it had been built was Fountain Hall, and Fountain Hall was the name of the person who built it. That was like Sir Fountain Hall, I believe. They changed the name when they bought the house. Is this the spirits saying, what the hell are you doing coming into my house, coming in, changing the name? And they started renovating the property and all of this. They do say that spirits don't enjoy renovations. They don't like change. They don't like to be disrespected, you know, when a new owner comes into a property. And this family is suddenly having these experiences as they're, you know, all together in this house that they've just decided for no reason to change the blooming name of this house. So did they upset some spirits that night? I wonder. Interestingly, the actual owner of the property was a gentleman called Professor Ian Holborn, who was a survivor of the sinking of the RMS Lusitania during World War One. And he was a writer and a professor at Oxford University. So he's the one who bought the property, and he, you know, him and his whole family. So this is a professor at a university who's having this experience. It's not, you know, some uneducated, you know, people. Like he's probably quite a logical man, and him and his entire family have had this experience collectively in the living room while trying to sing their Christmas carols on Christmas night. So I thought that was pretty creepy.
I'm going to propose an alternate theory.
I'm into it. Go ahead.
So you say, what did you say he survived?
He survived the sinking of the RMS Lusitania, which was a, from my memory of history, was a ship that was torpedoed and sank during World War One, 1915, I believe, off the top of my head. Apologies if I'm wrong.
So, my theory.
Yes.
This is just a festive Scottish Final Destination situation whereby he cheated death.
Oh my God.
From the torpedoed ship, and death came a-knocking.
Death came a-knocking.
For his whole family, because as we know, for everyone who's watched the films, that's what happens.
That is true.
Like, no,
I have unfortunately
you've
watched
escaped me
those
once.
films.
I'm coming to get you and your whole family, your whole bloodline. I'm coming for you.
Gemma made me watch Final Destination Bloodlines, and
I don't think it was as bad as you thought.
Well, so this is the segue. So bear in mind, Final Destination is the cause of quite a bit of anxiety around a few different things for me over the course of my life.
If anyone can drive behind logs, who's in their like 30s,
driving behind
40s,
logs,
no.
Walking past people mowing their lawn, because in one of them there is a stone that flicks out from someone's lawnmower and like goes in someone's eye and kills them. Escalators is the worst one for me, because there was a scene, I think it's in 3 actually, which is, I'm sure it's in 3, where the whole escalator like completely breaks. And I hate going on escalators. I jump off them at the end because of those films. So then Gemma and her husband make me watch Bloodlines. Like we're halfway through it, so they fill me in on the first half, and I watch possibly the worst scene in the whole film, which if you've not watched it, I'm sorry. If you have watched it, you'll understand when I say the MRI scene, because about 2 days later I get a letter from the hospital telling me that potentially I might need an MRI, and I was like, no, thankfully I didn't.
I refuse.
Thankfully I did not.
Yeah.
I don't have any piercings. I don't have anything like what this poor gentleman in this film has. But my goodness, will I never go in an MRI machine after watching that film?
I must admit, in my teens, I think I lost sanity twice and used a sunbed for some godforsaken reason. And
the gym weight machines. That's another one.
And yeah, like there were stand-up ones, not lie-down ones, thank God. But I still just couldn't shut the door all the way.
Yeah, check that there's
so
not
it probably
any
didn't even
drinks.
work properly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had to leave it open just a 1/4 inch because I was like, if I shut this, I may be frazzled.
And then somebody puts their ice drink down and the ice goes down the power cable and electrocutes the power cable and then I die. No. I don't know. Well, I don't think that this gentleman's family died. It was the family in the 1700s that refused Alexander Hamilton the entry into the property, who they all died horribly, or like of a mysterious illness. I don't believe that anybody died during this incident in 1923. I just found it very interesting that they'd only owned the house for a year, that they'd changed the name of the house, they were renovating the property, and that the guy who bought it was a hero from a very, very famous disaster that occurred during World War One. I just found that to be really quite interesting, because I think a lot of the time with these kind of hauntings that you find in stately homes and very, very large homes, you never really got like a name to attribute to the family. Like you don't really know anything. Like these houses are usually owned by people it's been in their house for 400 years. They don't really do anything, they just exist as rich people, whereas this is a guy who was kind of self-made professor, writer, who happened to buy the property. He was a war hero, all of this. I just found that to be quite an interesting... Gemma's dropping things. Sorry, producer Lewis, we're not editing this out, deal with it. I don't know, I found that really interesting, especially the name change from Fountain Hall was obviously the name of the guy, but I don't know whether this Penkate or Pencat is actually going back to maybe its Scottish roots and its Gaelic roots. I don't know that because I don't know Gaelic very well. But to me, that kind of feels almost like we've been disrespected as spirits, and you guys need to or maybe they just can't sing and they were singing Silent Night horribly and the ghosts were really upset with them.
They were just like, absolutely not.
Stop singing. But yeah, so the next one is also a stately home, but it's a royal stately home, and I have visited this property. I did not know it was haunted at the time. Sandringham House in Norfolk, which was famously, after Balmoral, the Queen's favourite property. It's a beautiful house. I visited. I didn't go inside, but I went around the grounds. It's lovely, and the Queen loved it. It was like her summer home.
Do you think she
potters around?
Oh, I hope she does.
Oh, I'm not a massive royalist, but I did think the Queen was quite cute. Bless her. Bless her little soul. But yeah, so the royal summer house, at Christmas it comes alive. It comes alive for weeks, but it always begins on Christmas Eve. So the activity in the property, so they've got a week. It's a week now that they've got to prepare themselves, because Sandringham House is about to blow up, guys. Not in that way. So it starts on Christmas Eve, and then 4 weeks it continues. So it's weirdly, it's all kind of in the servant areas, in the servant corridors that this happens. And whether that's just because the servant halls are lived in more regularly than the rest of the house, because the royals obviously don't live there permanently. Maybe it's just noticed more in the servant areas. But they report footsteps that they can't trace, doors that open and close and slam on their own, lights that turn on and off repeatedly, so like literally like someone's flicking the switch up and down repeatedly, like almost like a joke really, more than anything. And then something that is heard often, especially within the service corridors, is heavy breathing behind people, which I think I would poo myself if that. I think I could deal with hearing footsteps come down the corridor, but I think if I heard heavy breathing in my ear and turned around and no one was there.
I'd be really interested to read a little bit more about that, and whether that's almost, from what you say, if it almost seems to almost have a start and a stop time.
Yeah.
Is that just an extended, what's the word?
Like a residual haunting
around,
I don't know whether the royals
almost just the servants
Christmas
replay.
there?
Yeah, and I was going to say, in like the servants, obviously it would have been a massively busy time, big parties.
Yeah, that is true. That's
the
a good
rush
point.
of preparing for Christmas,
Yeah.
and whether just so much energy was stored at that time,
and it's just that
and
recording
just gets
in
replayed
time.
Almost.
That's a really good point that I actually hadn't considered at all. Christmas cards also get moved around, and it's really important to note that 2 kings of England died at Sandringham. George and George, I think. Two different Georges, I believe, died at Sandringham. I might be wrong on the Georges.
I didn't know George was a common name in England.
Yeah, no, me neither. But yeah, no, I hadn't even considered, like, I love the stone tape theory, and actually that reminds me I need to talk about something else at the end. Sorry, I said to Gemma, this is going to be a short episode. No, it's not. It never is. Standard. It never bloody is it? It's me. It's my fault. I can't help it. I've just sold something on Vinted. Delightful. I'm using my phone.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to me. I can eat. But yeah, so moving on to this is my last one of the research that I've done just around like buildings and what their hauntings are around Christmas, and then I've got a couple of Reddit stories to discuss, which particularly caught my eye. So this one, I actually knew about this one, and I've been really interested in this case for a while, and I'm so annoyed with myself because I was a stone's throw from this property at the weekend, did not even consider that I was this close to this property and probably could have gone to see it. So it's called 50 Berkeley Square, which is in London, which is in Mayfair. So Mayfair is a very affluent, very nice, like upper class area of London. It's in Marble Arch and Hyde Park and that sort of area. So I was in Mayfair. I stayed at Marble Arch over the weekend. I could have walked here. I am fuming with myself. So particularly in the 18th and 19th century, there were a string of mysterious deaths that occurred within this property. So this, I'm going to post a picture of this particular building because it's really interesting. Sorry, I'm yawning. A really interesting building. Proper Edwardian, or Georgian. Like, you know, like you get the big row of like houses in London where all of them are like 4 stories high. They're like the townhouses, and then they've got, you know, that really big front door.
Cherry Tree Lane.
Like beautiful.
Yeah,
so it's one of those. But inside, horrifying. So guests across this time frame would report seeing a ghost. So they would say, oh, I've seen this. That night, they would wind up dead. But they would not just wind up dead. Their eyes and their mouths would be open, like frozen, as if they died of like fright. And this happened quite often.
At Christmas.
At Christmas. So this particular story I'm about to tell you now happened at Christmas. So one of these occurrences happened in 1887. It was Christmas Eve. So this is how it's written, how the story is told. So it was Christmas Eve, and there were 2 sailors, Blunden and Martin. I believe that's their surnames. They were on leave in London. They trawled the gloomy, foggy streets that cold evening looking for lodgings. They happened upon 50 Berkeley Square and were pleased to find a room there for the night. The murderous haunted house had previously claimed a victim in the room in which they stayed. Blunden felt uneasy in the darkness and couldn't sleep. In the middle of the night, he frantically woke up Martin in time to see a dark spectre looming towards them. Blunden felt around for a weapon, and the apparition darted towards him. Meanwhile, bleary-eyed, Martin escaped to the street and found a bobby on the beat. For those of you that are not English, that is a police officer. The bobby on the beat.
Bobby on the beat.
The Navy man returned to the house with the police officer, and to their horror, they saw Blunden at the bottom of the stairs, dead. His neck was broken, his eyes and mouth were wide open, as though he had died from fear. That is a very famous case.
That is horrendous.
Yeah. Weirdly, or not weirdly because it's me, nerdily, the reason I know this is because of a video game called Assassin's Creed Syndicate, which is based in London in the Victorian times. In that video game, you meet Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens was very, very famously a member of the Ghost Club, for which I myself am a member. It's the oldest ghost hunting club in the world. And this particular property was actually investigated during the Victorian times by members of the Ghost Club and Charles Dickens. So really, really a very, very famous case, and did actually happen. So I know. And I'm so mad that I didn't go. Like, I could have gone and stood outside.
And I'm assuming they never got to the bottom of how that ban.
Nope. And it's still lived in to this day. I would love to know who
Can we
lives there.
dedicate an episode in the new year?
Sure.
If that's all right. I'm sure that's probably got lots and lots of stories.
I'm sure it has. Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody has any more stories about that or knows anything about that particular case, please let me know. If you've been there, if you live in the area and you know anything about it, or any of the other, like those old sort of townhouses, like why those townhouses in particular, because I do find it very interesting. So moving on to the Reddit stories, I found loads. There were actually way more specific like Christmas stories than I thought there was going to be. I did trawl through a lot of them. A lot of them were just like, this happened to just happen on Christmas Day, of which I have got a couple. There was the odd one that were like specifically around sort of like I thought I saw Santa and stuff like that, but a lot of them felt to me a little bit like, you're a child, you're expecting Santa to be there, you wake up in the night and you think, oh, there's someone in my room. But I think psychologically you're expecting that because it's Christmas and you're expecting to see Santa. There was one that I did read where they heard something land on the roof, and then the next morning when they went out, the tiles on their roof had been like disturbed and broken off and their chimney was damaged and stuff like that. So that was an interesting one that I read, but again,
ho ho ho, insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Call to make a claim.
Ho ho home insurance. You're welcome. Dad jokes. But yeah, so this one kind of caught my eye, and it's more just because it seems to be something that happens so often, and I'm so intrigued when I hear stories that are very similar to each other from different countries. So this happened within the Philippines. So this is exactly as the person wrote this story. So during the 80s, my family had a Christmas party, which ended late in the wee hours of the morning. They did write the wee hours. They are from the Philippines, not Scotland. I don't know why they wrote that. My mum with her cousin were taking the trash outside before they went to sleep, and they saw that their neighbour across the street was sitting by the gutter smiling at them. She waved hi, the girl smiled and waved back. Her cousin then shook her and said, "That's not," whatever the neighbour's name is. They didn't put the neighbour's name. That's when they realised that their neighbour had shoulder-length hair. This girl in front of them had long ankle-length hair and was wearing a long white sleep gown.
It's always a long white sleep gown.
With long hair.
Long hair.
Yes. They both screamed, ran back inside the house. The next morning they learned that their neighbours were not home, that they were spending Christmas in a different province. I'm not sure if it was really a ghost, but here in the Philippines it would have been so uncomfortable wearing a long sleep gown. We're a tropical country and summer is in December in the Philippines. So from what I can gather, the sleep gowns are, like the quite heavy, thick, like warm sleep gowns. So it made me do a little bit of research because I hear so much, like you said, your reaction to that was it's always a girl in, a long gown, like white gown with long black hair. That is the case. And there is something called a capriosa, which is an indigenous Filipino term for the white lady ghosts. That's their terminology for that particular type of spirit. In Japan, for example, they're like onryos. Onryo is the terminology for that ghost, for example. There is a famous case called the White Lady of Balate Drive in Quezon City, which is where people report seeing a woman in white standing by the tree line. She appears most often to taxi drivers without fares or lone motorists at night, which already scares the crap out of me. That is one of my biggest fears, is driving on my own at night and seeing a ghost, or like looking in my back seat and seeing I would probably crash the car if I'm honest. Supposedly she was a woman who was involved in a hit and run between a student and a young woman from a nearby mansion. Her spirit wanders seeking revenge. The story is often told as a way to scare children in the Philippines. So my first thought with that was why are there so many stories of this particular type of ghost, but also, if this story is used to scare children, did they have that in their head when they saw this particular person in a nightgown and like freak themselves out, and it wasn't actually anything? And like if I saw a woman in a nightgown with long black hair, I'd probably be like, oh my god, it's The Ring. Oh my god, it's The Grudge, because your brain kind of fills in that should be scary, and it could have just been a woman that was just outside like just living a life, minding a business on Christmas Day, like minding her own, and then these two people scream at her and run back inside their house, I'd be like, oh, was it something I said? But the other interesting part is, and I don't know, if any of our listeners or even yourself, Gemma, listen to Uncanny, which is the podcast with Danny Robbins. I literally listened to this episode like yesterday. I think it was from about 3 weeks ago. He had an episode about the episode was about road ghosts and ghosts that appear like at the side of the road. Mm-hmm. And one of the stories was very, very similar to this, in which it was a woman who died in the 1960s the night before her wedding, and she appears in like her wedding dress in Kent, like at the side of the road, and like thousands of people have seen her and all of this stuff. I just don't know where this woman in a white dress thing comes from. Like, no. there has to be an origin story to this, or is it just that women seek revenge in the afterlife more than men, or like young women, when they die young because they've got unfinished business, they appear more as ghosts, and the purity of the colour white? We'll have
to do a deep dive on the woman in white.
Because
I think we've discussed before, like, obviously we're quite conscious of the fact we have a narrow scope of storytelling in the UK, but like you say, that seems to be a really universal thing, like you say, even across Asia and that sort of thing, like girls in flowy white outfits with long hair obscuring their face. It's just universally terrifying.
Horrendous. Like, honestly, I would actually poo.
I think without getting down a whole rabbit hole, I think I don't know. I think there's something to be said, because funnily enough, for one of my English literature dissertations, I believe I discussed Victorian horror, because of course I did.
Yeah.
And like, old-fashioned famous novels, the woman in white, the woman in black, the woman, scary,
yeah.
And just this innate thing in our psyche that women in the living world are seen as such a safe place, safe, nurturing, whereas men are just, no offense guys, but like
dubious at best.
Yeah like you would be scared of a bloke at the side of the road anyway, whereas a woman,
there's something wrong,
there's something
with that,
unnerving and deeply innately wrong that just makes your hair stand on edge,
just standing there at the side of the road. It's not something for me. It kind of brings me on to my second one a little bit, and this one weirdly also links into that particular episode of Uncanny with the road ghosts. So this one was called Tall Figure on Christmas Eve. So this happened on Christmas Eve of 2012, my bad. I was driving home in my truck to pick up my son in our small town in KY, which I believe is Kentucky, but I could be wrong. I'm sorry if I am. There was a small park parallel to the road I was on, and another road coming in at a T-junction and ending at the park. I see a figure coming down the middle of the street to my left that is going to intersect the road that I'm on. I'm going slow since this town, the speed limit is 25 and it's Christmas Eve, so the street is empty. The figure is going to be right where I am in my truck, so I think that they're about to stop. It is this tall figure in black with what looks like a duster coat and a turban of all things on its head. Just as I get close, it doesn't stop. It just keeps going in a straight line. I see it really has no face, just a kind of black void where the face would be. One of the blackest things I've ever seen. This thing is tall too, taller than my truck. It just keeps moving. I should have hit it, but it seems to pass right through the truck behind me, and I stopped and watched it just continue through the park, still in a straight line, and sort of gliding because the coat and the bottom of the legs kind of faded into the ground. You really couldn't see feet or legs, just a black shadow. I don't know what this was. I have never forgotten it or gotten over it. It feels like something I wasn't supposed to see. And then somebody replied to that and said, "Good story, and I believe you." My friend and I saw a very similar figure to what you describe. Extremely tall, black being that you could see in complete darkness because it was like a void. It looked humanoid and moved like a human, but glided. Very strange. Its feet kind of faded into the ground as well. I wonder what they are.
What is that?
What is that? Gemma is like, what on earth?
What is that?
What is that? So again, the interesting thing with that is...
And does that only appear on Christmas Eve.
Yeah, this is it. So if this guy, you know, picks his son up regularly, it sounds like, you know, he said, I'm going to pick my son up. So
what in the ghost of Christmas Grizzly Past is this?
Right, exactly. So it gave me a couple of thoughts, really. So the first one, again, going back to that episode of Uncanny with the road ghosts, that was a very, very similar thing again to a lot of the stories that were told on that episode. And like road ghosts, man, we need to do an episode on this because we've got some even around here. Like, you know, I mentioned, and I don't think that episode's out yet, so spoiler alert for you guys. I think in the new year there'll be an episode where I talk about a ghost. It wasn't really a ghost, I don't think, but someone that I saw at the side of the road, and someone that your mum's friend saw at the side of the road as well. We live in Highwayman area. Nearby to us was famous for a highwayman called Dick Turpin, who famously is supposed to haunt, you know, the roads around this area, and other highwaymen that are supposed to haunt the roads. What is it with ghosts and roads? Like, I don't know. But one thing that was in that particular, or two things that kind of connect to this story that were in that particular Uncanny episode, was one of them was a guy and his friend, and these things were like walking beside his car and like keeping up with his car. And the second one was when, and it linked into this woman in the white dress that died the night before her wedding, where people are hitting this person and they're going through the car, or, you know, they're stopping and this person is in the middle of their bonnet or like inside the car with them when they're like slamming their brakes on, and, you know, they're completely, you know, transparent, and they just appear inside the vehicle because you can't hit them, they're not real. It just reminded me very much of that. But the other part of that was the person who told the story and the person who commented both said it was very, very dense black. And one of my, if not my biggest paranormal experience I've ever had was something that I saw, which is not a story that I can tell on this podcast, unfortunately. But I saw this thing, and the way that I've always described it is it was blacker than black. It was, the room I was in was pitch black, and this thing was like piercing through the darkness, like black void. And what the hell are these things that are literally so black that they're blacker than the black darkness around them? Like, so strange. I don't know whether you've ever experienced anything like that, Gemma, yourself, but
no, thank God.
Thank God.
Thank God.
Definitely interested to know if, you know, if you guys have ever experienced anything like that. If you've, like, please, if you have seen ghosts like at the side of the road and things like that, I need to know, because I feel an episode coming on. I feel a 2-hour episode coming on.
In my bones.
But yeah, Christmas. I don't know why Christmas, whether any of those stories that I've just mentioned, you know, were specifically just because of Christmas, or whether they just happened to occur or be seen this particular time at Christmas, whether it's because more people are around in the house, because it's more festive, because there's more energy and it builds that energy and these things manifest, or, you know, whether there's just more people in the house to actually have the probability of seeing it. Sandringham, for example, you know, maybe it's just because, like you said, that's a more prominent time, there's more people that are there at that time, or back in the day, you know, the stone tape theory, it just happened to be a more energized time, so, you know, the room has recorded that energy and replays it at this, you know, dubious time of year. I don't know. I'm trying to think. I'm sure I had an experience around Christmas when I was a kid as well, but I think I attributed it at the time to Santa Claus. I remember experiencing something, or waking up and there was movement in my bedroom one like Christmas Eve years and years and years ago. Again, could that have just been me having like a hypnopompic hallucination around me expecting there to be a Santa Claus in my bedroom? So I you know, made that fit in my brain. I don't know. But what have you got thinking wise, Gemma? You look like you're pondering.
I am pondering. It's an interesting, I think for me, Christmas is more, I'm going to attribute it to like the time of year and like the darkness around, and like, does that just winter time, does that allow things that tend to hide in the dark a bit more comfortable to roam around?
Perhaps, but maybe that also attributed to the solstice as well.
That's what I mean. Like,
yeah,
so
21st, 22nd.
To be honest, for me,
December.
probably not tied so much to like the festive side of things, but yeah, like the natural Earth's cycles.
Yeah.
And obviously summertime, when it doesn't get dark until literally like, I don't know, 10 o'clock some days.
Yeah.
When it does actually get dark, so that's not until like, what, 2, 3 in the morning, like pitch black.
Yeah.
Humans aren't going to be around to see that. Whereas when the
awake a lot later,
when the darkness closes in, and we are celebrating still out at like a decent time, and you need to be out and about at like 10, 11 at night, but that's when it's already like pitch black.
Yeah.
We just get exposed more to these things because they're coming out to play a little bit.
Do you think we get exposed more? Do you think we are psychologically geared up to find it more spooky and therefore maybe have more psychological experiences?
Almost like a primal, I'm out and about in the dark, I've got to have my wits about me sort of thing. Yeah. Whereas like you say, summer, it's still light outside, I can still feel a breeze, sun's still up.
That's true. You're probably just more happy and not paying attention to the, like, I tend to go a bit more, is it sedentary, is that the right word? Like,
sedentary.
I tend to just like wind down at this time of year, so I spend a lot more time calm and at a slow pace, and probably notice more than what, summer's a very fast-paced time for a lot of people. We're probably not paying attention.
We're in hibernate mode in the winter, so we shouldn't be out. The body's screaming, no, get inside, sleep.
But then, this story that I found in the Philippines, that's they're on the other hemisphere to us, I believe.
That's very true.
So technically it's their summer during that Christmas period, and they still had this experience with the White Lady. So maybe it is just,
that's my theory blown out of the water.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, that might just have not been anything to do with Christmas itself. I don't know, but yeah, I just found it interesting. Like I say, I was going to go really down the rabbit hole of Krampus and different cultures and their sort of belief systems around Christmas, and the more spiritual side of Christmas and that side of things. But I was like, no, I'm just going to tell some spooky stories around some spooky things that have happened to them, like to different people around the world. Obviously, there was only a couple that weren't the UK, but we are in the UK and we're a very spooky nation. We love a spook as well, especially Scotland, which is why I had to cut so many Scotland ones out.
Oh, Christmas time in the Victorian times, telling ghost stories around the fire was the thing.
It really was.
That was the thing.
It was, yeah. And that might attribute to why we've got some of what we've got going on. It might be, psychologically that we are primed, and we're not really experiencing all of this, and we're just... it's just how we're built as Brits, but I don't know. I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know if anybody's had any experiences on Christmas. One just funny little story to end that piece on. My dad once, he loved telling this story. My dad was coming home from the pub on Christmas Eve at like 2 a.m, so technically Christmas Day, and walked down the street jingling his keys as he walked down the street, and just looked at all the houses to all the kids that were poking their heads out the windows. I was always like, Dad, you've ruined some children's Christmases. He's like, I know, but it was funny. And I was drunk. I was like... So my dad ruined some Christmases, or made them, because I don't know whether they necessarily could see him in the street. He was just jangling his keys as he walked down the road at 2 o'clock in the morning. So, yeah, funny. But just thought I'd end out on that.
That child's either going to look out the window and, like you say, hopefully be blissfully ignorant, like, oh, there's only a man walking, so it can't be him. So, yes, Santa is up on my roof.
Santa must be on the roof.
Or a kid's gone and looked like, why does Santa look like that?
Why has Santa got like a number
big 2 ring of keys, like a prison officer or something?
Haircut, like pretty much a bald head and like a short black beard. Like,
why is he all in black?
Why is he wearing all black? Yeah, because my dad famously wore all black. Bless him. But yeah, so that was my little Christmas tales. I didn't think it was going to be.
Very much.
You're welcome. I didn't think it was going to be too long of an episode, but here we are.
No, I liked the variation. I liked
some
more like 4 more like big venues where Christmas would have been big
thing, yeah.
And where it seems to like reverberate this time of year, and then obviously like little more personal stories letting us know that the spooky does still happen at the festive season.
Guys, let me know as well if you want us to do a special on, you know, like stately homes and castles in the UK, because
I'd not even thought
we've
of that.
got so many.
That is such a good idea.
There are so many. We could go to some. You've got a National Trust membership, haven't you?
Yes, let's put that free parking to good use.
Yeah, let's just go to some National Trust properties around the UK. That's the one thing that I do. I'm so bad for it. And Gemma, you know, you guys will know this from when we talked about when we went to the Galleries of Justice. The first thing I do is ask the staff, have you ever seen a ghost? Everywhere I go.
They would absolutely love that.
Everywhere I go.
We're just going to start going around National Trusts like...
So tell me about the ghosts.
It's always like little old volunteers, isn't it? Bless them.
Like, have you ever seen a ghost? Oh, yes, apart from that time and that time and that time when I was alone.
But I don't believe in that sort of thing.
Exactly. They always... My blooming father was the same. I don't believe... Your dad did this to me when he told me, I don't believe in ghosts apart from that time. And I'm like,
Apart from this list of 10 experiences. Moving on.
Yes, exactly.
Yes, no, we are getting together. I think we've not organised it yet, but we're going to get together and do a bit of a... We want to do a bit of a vision board for what we see Hot Girl Stomps doing in 2026.
Yeah, where we're going to go to visit.
Where we're going to go.
What we're going to talk about on the pod. Maybe some guests that we're going to get onto the pod. Gemma is smiling at me. We've got plans that we cannot reveal. But also friends. Like, I'd like to try and get some of our, you know, friends that do this kind of thing on. I'd maybe like to get, if there's any of you guys that are listening that would be willing to send in a voice recording or send in your stories that we can read out. Like, I would love to...
Or come to my house. I'll make you a cup of tea.
Or that.
And you can just come sit with us.
Gemma's made me a lovely cup of tea this evening. Well, I did put some sugar in it to wake me up a little bit. But yeah, we want to get you guys more involved. So look out. We'll probably maybe share the vision board. It depends how aesthetic it looks.
Yeah, we'll put it out on socials. Like, what do you guys want to see from us in 2026?
Yeah.
You know, we're 8-9 episodes deep at this point.
This will be, I believe, episode 8. We have got the 9th episode recorded already, which will come out in the new year.
So we're approaching double figures. You know, what do you guys like? What don't you like? Like,
do you like these longer 1 hour and 10 minute episodes?
We don't seem to be able to help ourselves, so I don't know how much say they've got over that. But
do you know what? So when we started this podcast, we said let's just do like 30 minutes. We've got so much that we talk about, but people have even said to us now, like some people, a couple of people, yeah, like Graham, we've name dropped you before, Graham, but we're name dropping you again. Our number 2 fan now, because we've got a number 1 fan.
Yeah, Graham, you've been
downgraded. Graham, our number 2 fan, probably is joking, but he always goes, an hour and a half episode, and then he listens to the entire thing. But then we've had some comments from people saying like the episodes aren't long enough. So I'd love to know, you know, from you guys, if there's anything that you think, you know, from how we structure this that we could cut, if there's anything that you would like to hear us talk about more in episodes, anything like that, any feedback for us, it's hotgirlstomps@gmail.com. You can find us on Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, either HGS Paranormal Podcast or Hot Girl Stomps. You can find us, message us, leave comments, YouTube, anywhere you want to find us. Please give us your feedback. Tell us what you want us to cover. If there's any locations that you think we should go and visit, either open during the day for tours or for us to go and do ghost hunts at, anything at all. We would love to hear from you guys and hear your suggestions going forward. I'm going to end on one last thing before we close out. Have you got anything that you want to close out with before I take it away? She's staring at me.
Take it away, Cheri.
So, as Gemma mentioned, or as I mentioned, as we both mentioned, I was in London this weekend. I went to a convention which was called the Silver Scream Convention, which was a horror convention. And one of the guests that was there was a guy called David Bradley? No. Not David Bradley. Doug Bradley. My brain's not working. I'm very tired. I've had 4 hours sleep. He played famously Pinhead in Hellraiser. If you've ever seen Hellraiser, the famous Pinhead. Yeah. He played him in every iteration of the Hellraiser movies. So he did a panel which I attended, and it was very good. And one of the people that went up and asked him a question, and I don't know where this question came from, but he basically asked him, have you ever had any experiences with the occult? I'm assuming it's because, you know, he plays Hellraiser. It's all about the occult and demons and hell and souls and all of that stuff. He said, have you ever, you know, had any experiences like this? And he said, I have actually, and I'm really, really interested in the paranormal. And I'm gutted because he went on, and then the panel after that was the Terrifier. If you've ever seen the Terrifier movies, and if you know me, I am obsessed with those films. So I obviously stayed for that panel. The panel went way over because it was the most popular panel of the weekend. By the time it finished, the convention had closed, and my plan was go find his table, go talk to him about the paranormal, because he was saying that he has gone out and done ghost hunts. This guy is like 60 odd, you know, a famous actor, one of the most famous horror actors of all time. And he's saying, I go out and do ghost hunts. I believe in the stone tape theory. And he was explaining the stone tape theory to this room of horror fans that had no idea what on earth he was talking about. And I'm sat in the front row like, oh my God, this is the best day of my life. And he was telling us, you know, all about his like experiences and his belief in the, lack of belief really in UFOs, but a bit more belief in stone tape and spirits and like time travel and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I can't believe I didn't get a chance to speak to this guy, this really famous actor who is, you know, super famous for being in Hellraiser, and he was telling us these stories about how he met Ringo Starr dressed as Pinhead and all this, and then he just goes on to start telling me about all this paranormal stuff, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him about it. So if you're listening, Doug Bradley, come and listen, come on our podcast, come and tell us all about your stone tape theory stuff, and we would love to have you.
This is your formal invite, Brad.
This is your formal invite.
Sorry.
Doug Brad. But yeah, so that was just, that kind of closed out my weekend a little bit, like in a nice way, because I was like, what a random little surprise to hear the words stone tape theory said at a panel in front of a bunch of people who probably 3 of them knew what he was talking about. I just found that really interesting because everyone was like stone-faced. Apart from me, I was like
you were like sweating.
Kid in the candy store at the front.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just thought I'd close out on that little piece because I thought it was fun. I thought it was nice. You know, there's celebrities out there that are really, really interested in this stuff, probably more than we realise, that have got a real passion for this kind of stuff, which is really refreshing to see. So I just thought I'd end out on that. But anything from yourself, Gemma, before we head into Christmas Day at the end of this episode?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. No, I'm not going to sing.
And avoid the roads. And we love you.
Be safe. Have a great, you know,
glad
holiday.
tidings to thee and thy kin.
Yes. And whatever you do, if you celebrate Christmas, if you don't celebrate Christmas, if you don't celebrate and you're off work, enjoy it. Have fun, do what you do, and we will see you on our next episode, which will be coming out in the new year, in 2026, Gemma.
Year of the horse.
Year of the horse.
Going forward.
There we go.
Nay, nay.
Good night.
Bye.